Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a super chilled out video. I've been up since 4:30 this morning and I just don't have the energy to do anything other than something super chill. So what I thought I'd do is a plant wish list video, but I also wanted to couple that with the anti-wish list video. And by that I mean plants that I want nothing to do with this year, and I will not be collecting. I'll be avoiding at all costs. There's going to be like lots of different reasons for that, and I think it would just be fun to kind of chat through that. And then while I talk through them, obviously I'll be putting pictures up of the plants, and then I'm just going to be working through some plant tours. So what I need to do is I need to get a couple plants out of moss. So, you know, picking moss off of roots is like really mindless, therapeutic for me. I can like talk and do it at the same time. So that's what I'm going to be doing while I chat through my list. And if that sounds fun to you, then keep on watching. This is my potting mat, which is from Plant Mats. And I use this plant mat for pretty much every repotting, and it's perfect. And I'm actually just repotting on top of my IKEA bin right now. So I wanted to kind of preface my wish list by saying I just wanted to give some background on kind of like where I am in my collection and my thoughts surrounding it, because that would probably be pretty telling of what's on my list. So over the last 2 years, I think that I collected a lot of plants, and especially in 2020, I feel like a lot of people can relate. A lot of people were into plants prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic kind of like made everyone go a little bit nuts and a little bit stir crazy. So what happened is like everyone started to like frantically collect. We all know this, like the prices went a little bit insane. So I'm definitely like part of that surge. And I did a lot of purchasing that was like very, how do I describe it? Spur of the moment decisions. A bunch of factors kind of played into this. So one was that supply kind of dried out because demand kind of went through the roof, but also because supplies dried out and everyone wanted to buy, things started selling out so quickly, and you didn't really have time to make smart, informed, thought out decisions before buying a plant. And so like myself, and I know a lot of others, bought a lot of plants in that year. Like probably we bought the most plants that year than we ever did in our whole entire life. And I'm talking about 2020 right now. And through that, I learned a lot about my tastes in plants. Like a lot of plants would come into my home and like it just didn't really live up to my expectations of how much I thought I would love it. And then other plants obviously did live up to those expectations. And I think I know myself a lot better now. And 2021, I did buy quite a few plants at the beginning, but it really tapered off near the end of the year. And at this point, I haven't imported since like May of last year. And yeah, I am itching to import again, but like my imports aren't going to be nearly as big as they used to be. What I feel right now about what I want out of my collection and like adding to that collection is I have a better understanding of what I like, first of all, and what I don't like. I have a better understanding of what plants tend to do well, what plants kind of motivate me to take care of them when I'm really busy, and how to take care of them, obviously. I find it a lot easier now to block out, like, I want to say like the noise of like the hype, or when like, you know, a plant drops in a nursery and everyone goes crazy, lining up and just like swarming to buy this plant. If it wasn't already on my radar to begin with, it's easy for me to block that out and say like, oh, like I don't really need that plant. Like I'm not even gonna attempt to go get it, just because I feel the FOMO. Like I don't feel that FOMO anymore. So anyways, yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. Like I want to be adding to my collection with intention. And that's not like a conscious decision, like I'm trying to be like really good or anything. It's just like how I naturally feel right now. it takes a lot for me to want to spend money on plants now. I prefer to trade or import, or just like basically trade. Like I want to say a lot of the plants I've been getting in the last while, it's not technically been a trade, but it's just like me and my friends gifting plants to each other back and forth. Anyways, I just thought I'd just like preface that by saying like this is like kind of like the state of how I'm feeling about plant collecting at the moment. Like I don't need that like retail therapy aspect of it so much. I mean, I obviously do have moments, but it's more about like expanding my collection in a way that I add plants that I know will make me happy, and I'm gonna start getting rid of plants that, you know, don't really spark any joy. So yeah, anyways, that's it for my ramble, and I'm gonna get on with the list now. Let's see. The first plant, I'm gonna start with philodendrons. So first plant is a plant that I've been wanting for a really, really long time. And by really long time, I wanna say like coming up to 2 years. And the reason why I haven't gotten it is because it's so expensive. There's been a couple of opportunities for me to get it, but no, I'm not spending $1,000+ on a plant. But that plant is the Philodendron UPI. I can see that the prices are dropping on this, which is really great. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna have to wait before I find one at a price that I'm comfortable with. I know they're not gonna be cheap. I mean, never say never, but I'm not banking on it ever being like an accessible, affordable plant. So I know that when I do get it, I'm gonna be spending some coin on it, but I'm okay with that because I just love this plant so much. I know what I'm getting when I'm getting this plant, and it's gonna be just such a joy to grow into that like mature form. I really love plants with odd shapes, kind of like that pretty ugly dynamic, and obviously it has a cool history behind it too. So given the opportunity, I would definitely add the UPI to my collection. Just the other day, I think I saw one on Facebook in the States for, it was like a mature 5-6 leafer, and it was $1,000, and that's a lot cheaper than what it used to be. So I don't need one that big to start with. So I think maybe by the end of the year, maybe not. Probably my top philodendron wish list plant. And then my second one I want to talk about is Philodendron Polypodioides. So as I understand it, this is an aberrant form of Philodendron pedatum, and it looks a lot like Philodendron tortum when it's juvenile. And you're gonna see, if you search tags, like a lot of people just like mix up the tags a lot between these two plants. I don't really know why. Like if you own one, obviously you should know what you have. I love tortum and I love pedatum, and it's morphed together, and it's super skinny, spindly, and just doesn't look like it should be real. I really, really, really love it. I'd be highly surprised if I were able to get my hands on one this year, but if the opportunity presented itself, I would definitely get one, and I'd make my friends split it with me because I think a lot of us want this plant. So yeah, definitely want Philodendron Polypodioides. And the next one I want to talk about is not a hard to obtain plant. It's in high demand, but it's not like super rare or anything, and that is Philodendron Buono. So I did have one. Charmaine gave me one last year. She brought back a big plant from California, and this one had thrips, so she was rehabbing it from a friend, and she gave me a cutting of it, and that unfortunately just rotted away into nothing. It just kept rotting, and I kept cutting it back, and so it didn't survive, unfortunately. Just disintegrated into mush. So while I'm not that into variegation, I think I'm slowly coming around to variegation, and if you hear the root snapping, it's because I'm a little bit impatient. I'm being as gentle as I can, but I'm not that patient, and these roots are really, really fine. So anyway, I was saying I'm coming around to variegation, and like I was actually really, really excited to have that plant, but you know, these things happen and they don't always make it. So I am on the hunt for another Buono. And I'm just like excited because I hear they're really easy, they're easy to propagate, they grow really well, the variegation's stable, and you can really kind of manipulate how it looks with like your growing conditions. So yeah, I think that chances are pretty good that I might be able to get one this year. I might import one if the opportunity was there. Yeah, like I said, like our group is looking to import more this year, purely for personal, because like there's just not really like the opportunity to make money off of importing anymore. It's just like that, it's so saturated, everyone's importing now. So yeah, just for personal stuff. And then another plant I definitely want to import, if we do one from Indonesia, is a replacement of my Homalomena Red Sumatra. What else are they calling? SP Sumatra, Redback. That plant that I killed by being negligent. I missed too many waterings and I killed my plant. They're not super easy to grow, I don't think. Jing lost a couple and she has a couple struggling. Charmaine's died back to a stump, and I mean, like, we are growing it in greenhouses, so I think we like, hopefully we can just figure out how to grow these plants in a way that they will thrive and grow. I mean, to be honest, mine was thriving. It was growing really steadily and it was just like really, really perfect. So I think you just like can't miss a watering with these guys, or they'll just make their departure from this life. So definitely want that. And then if there was an opportunity to also get a different Homalomena SP from Indonesia, from like maybe the same supplier, I would see if they have there's this like fuzzy unknown Homalomena. Now this one actually looks like it might just die at any given moment. All that fuzz makes me think that it might be really, really fussy in terms of humidity. So like, I'm tentatively saying I want it. Like, I mean, I do want it. Looking at the plant, I really, really do want it, but there's a little bit of apprehension there because maybe it will just be a super, super finicky plant. Yeah, so that's it for Homalomena. And next I want to talk about Anthuriums. So I would say, like, of all the plants on my wish list, Anthuriums are like the top for me. I had a really hard time narrowing it down to 5 Anthuriums. I narrowed it down to the point where I couldn't really like rank one above the other. Hold on, I'm gonna drink some tea. So the first one on my wish list for Anthuriums is, this should come as no surprise to anyone, Anthurium Ace of Spades. I had the pleasure of babysitting Charmaine's Ace of Spades over the holidays. It was so cute. It was really chill, just living in my tent, and it pushed out a leaf and then I gave it back to her. But it was reassuring to know that like it wasn't anything like out of the ordinary care-wise for an Anthurium. It was just the same as all my other Anthuriums, and it did well in that kind of like lowish light spot that I gave it, high humidity. So I'm confident that I can take care of one well. So I just need to find one. And it looks like I'm gonna have to find it from the States somewhere and maybe like find a way to like pick it up and bring it back. So I'm not in a rush by any means, but an Ace of Spades like needs a spot in my collection, 100%. And actually looking at my Anthurium list right now, they're all dark leaf Anthuriums. So the next one, oh my God, this one is something else. I want one so bad, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford one. I see it pop up a lot, but it is so highly coveted and so in such high demand that I don't think that it's gonna happen, but it is on my list. So that is Anthurium Black Velvet Eastern Panama. So I discovered this plant, no, I didn't discover this plant like in the jungle in Panama. I saw this plant sometime last year. I don't remember when, but it was like instant love for me. Oh, it's like, it's so dark. The emergent leaves are just like black, and then like they expand to kind of like this like bronzy black with this like iridescence to it. And they all, or like almost all the ones I'm seeing are quite narrow and elongated. And the, you know, the patterning and the direction of the venation is like very, very visually pleasing. Sorry, I'm snapping some roots right now. Oh, they're just absolutely beautiful. And I think that it would be a plant, no, I'm quite certain there would be a plant, like a forever one in my collection. Like imagining breeding this with other plants, like it would just be an amazing, amazing mother plant too, or father plant. So yeah, if I can find one this year, that's one I'm willing to, you know, dig deep in my pockets for. And then the next one, well, the next two are ones that like I really like. I may or may not already have one, but I'm not quite certain. I just know it's not the type that I have in my mind. So the first one is Anthurium dressleri. So another highly coveted dark Anthurium. At the moment, I'm not willing to pay the price that sellers are asking for it. Like, I mean, I don't blame them for charging this much, but I'm just not willing to pay that price. So like I'm seeing like, I don't know, $400 or $500 US for a seed, like a seed, ungerminated seed, like fresh from the berry seed. And like, that's not, like tempted, but no, not gonna do that. So I love dressleri because, again, like I see some similarities between that and the black velvet in like the direction of the veins, how they kind of like come downwards and they splay out in like kind of star shape from the sinus. And obviously it would be an amazing plant to hybridize with. Dressleri hybrids are just gorgeous. The petioles are super cool. So if you didn't know, they're like 4 or 5 sided with like wings similar to luxurians. So if I had the opportunity to get like a baby plant or even just like a little seedling for not an insane price, I would jump on that. And then kind of similarly, the papillolaminum is also one that I really want. Like, why are all the beautiful dark anthuriums from Panama? I want to go to Panama. So papillolaminum, obviously another highly coveted plant, dark, long leaves, incredible lobes. Oh, the shape of a pappy is reignites my uterus. Not that there's anything wrong with my uterus, I don't think, but yeah, it's I have no words to describe how beautiful I think it is. So those two, kind of for the same reasons. A, love how they visually look, and B, want to hybridize with those plants. And I think like even if like it's just for fun breeding anthuriums, it is still fun, and it's another kind of aspect of plant parenthood that I want to explore a bit more. And then the last one on my list for anthuriums, honestly, would also be amazing for hybridizing. I've been wanting this plant for ages. That is Anthurium Carla Blackier. So I always kind of talk on Instagram, well, not always, I haven't said this in a while, but I love crystallinums so much. It's like, no matter how common they get, I'm always going to be a big fan of them. I just think they're stunning. I currently have one. I got rid of a lot of them just because I needed some cash. But I have the black crystallinum, or just basically like a very dark crystallinum, and I love that plant a lot. So Carla is just one that's just like the next step up, or maybe like 5 steps up. I'm also kind of like, just as an aside, really interested in finding a pure crystallinum, because pretty much everything like available right now is a hybrid or a complex hybrid. So like, I don't think I've ever owned, no, I definitely never owned a pure crystallinum, but you know, seeing photos in situ of crystallinums that like are supposedly pure, they're absolutely stunning. Super dark, very clean looking, very nicely structured. Yeah, so Carla Blackier, she's dark, she's elongated, she's got silvery venation, but her venation's like a lot more simple, and they kind of like fall off and fade out near the leaf margin. Just so black, such a dark Anthurium. I would, if I had the chance to buy a small plant, I'd have a hard time not going into debt for this plant. So those are my 5 Anthuriums on my wish list, all dark, all hard to get. And if I don't get any of them this year, I won't be surprised. The next one is Monstera. So I only have 1 plant on my Monstera wish list. If you ask me, the only Monstera that matters is Deliciosa. Sorry if that offends anyone. That's just my opinion. I don't care about any other Monstera. So the Monstera that I really want to add to my collection is the Monstera Burley Marks Flame. They used to be calling it, for like a second there, Monstera diacerata. Actually, they were calling it Sierrana before we realized it's definitely not Sierrana, but you know, another Brazilian species or variant of Monstera deliciosa. It's like everything I love about Deliciosa, but just a little bit exaggerated. And those like pennations that go like really deep up to the midrib are absolutely stunning. Even the juvenile leaves and how like slender they grow. And when they get there, like that first fenestration, it just looks like an evil version of Deliciosa. And I love it so much. And one thing about like a lot of these like Brazilian forms of Deliciosa is that the texture is a lot thicker than what we get out of our nurseries that are like from tissue culture. So they're like extremely leathery. I'm just seeing how many roots I'm actually pulling out. It's not bad, you know. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, the texture is super leathery and just a lot more substantial, and I think that makes them a little bit more drought tolerant too. But the only thing is, like, from everything I'm hearing about the Burley Marks Flame is that they're really, really, really slow growing. So there's that. I think that doesn't, I don't know, that doesn't make the availability too promising, but a plant that I would no doubt want to add, but I think it'll take a really long time for the price to kind of settle down a little bit. I know it's not going to be cheap ever, and I'm okay with that. I just don't want to be paying $10,000 for it. It's just not happening. So yeah, my only Monstera on my wish list is the Burley Marks Flame. So this is like a casual wish. It's one that I've been wanting for a long time, but just not like obsessively. So this is Discoria Discolor. So I think the first time I decided I wanted was when I saw a picture, and I'll see if I can find it because this is a long time ago that I saw it. Just this like giant, almost like a wall of it growing up a pole. Oh my god, it's so stunning. The colors, the venation that looks like it's like just like a bunch of like cubes built up. The patterning of the colors, and it looks kind of like sub-velvety and viney, and I've never owned a Discoria, so I don't know how it would do for me, but I definitely want to try with a small plant, and I can have the space to grow it in good greenhouse conditions. I haven't seen one locally. I'd have to ask around to see if like it's ever been sold around here, and I don't even know where to even get it from if it wasn't from a local seller. I don't know where, like I haven't researched where they come from or anything. So yeah, that's, as I said, it was like a casual want, but a want that I've been having for a really long time. And my Hoya wish list is actually the longest. This is because there are so many and I think I have the least experience collecting Hoyas, so there's just a lot for me to explore. And also, like, I messaged Jing and I was like, what's on my Hoya wish list, by the way? And she like just threw a whole bunch at me and I'm like, yep, on my wish list, on my wish list. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Hoyas to talk about. So the first one is one that I tried to get but failed. And that is Hoya CB Joy Splash. Actually, I'm going to show you what my Joy looks like now. It's right next to me here. That is my Joy. It is leafless, and here are the leaves. So I showed this plant in my plant tour and it looked fine, and then literally a few days later everything dropped and rotted off, and I don't really know why. Prior to filming that video, I've had this plant in that prop box for months, like months, and it looked fine until now. So I don't know what happened. Jing says that like these Hoyas can kind of hold on to cold damage for a long time and just suddenly drop everything. So maybe that's the reason why. Like, it definitely rooted and I can see some healthy roots on the side. But so anyways, that was my attempt at getting a splashy one. And it was like almost no splash when it came in. So it wasn't even like going to check off my wish list anyways. I'm gonna put up a picture of Jing's Joy, or her CB Joy. That is the stuff. Like, it looks so healthy, her plant, but like it just kind of like shows all the characteristics I love about Hoyas. And that's like a big fat large leaf with like round shape, and like nice splash and like veins that kind of make the leaf blade look kind of puffy. Definitely an Hoya that's like my taste. Yeah, and then the next one I really also want, James, aka Slug Plants, has an amazing one. So that is Hoya Michele. I think that's how you say it. So also another veiny, round, largish leaf, like not a huge leaf, but largish leaf Hoya that can get really splashy. I mean, James, I think, is like probably like unattainably splashy. So like with like a decent amount of splash is what I'm looking for. The only thing is, like, I hear that they're easygoing, they grow really quickly, but they vine like crazy before they'll put out any leaves. So you just kind of like keep twirling around and around and around and around. So that might be a little bit annoying, but I think that might be worth it for how beautiful this Hoya is. And then the next one is another splashy one. So I also attempted to get this plant, and it came in not so splashy, and that is Hoya Macrophylla Snow Queen. So Macrophylla can get really big, so I love that. And the Snow Queen is just like a highly splashed Macrophylla, and that's just absolutely stunning. And it's got that like kind of teardrop shape, and like super splashy and like really shiny. I would love to add a Snow Queen to my collection. I don't think they're like pricey by any means, but like, you know, splash and come and go, so you might not get a really nice one. So I'm okay waiting for that, but when I see one that's nice, I'm gonna grab it. And then next one, okay, so next one is one that comes highly recommended from Jing for being beautiful but also pretty easygoing, and that is Hoya Nova Ghost. I'm hearing a lot about how much easier Nova Ghost is compared to Grey Ghost, even though they look almost indistinguishable. And Nova Ghost, I think, is just a little bit fuzzier, has a little bit more texture, but grows a lot easier than Grey Ghost. And they're both Carnosa varieties. So, like, obviously the fuzzier option is going to be the one I want more. I really love silvery splashy Hoyas. I'm just gonna cut a dead root off of here. Just if you want to, if you're curious, I'm just cutting this root off. And then the next one, oh, this next one was one I discovered when I was researching for this wish list. I don't think I'd heard of it before or seen it passed around. There's not very many pictures under the Instagram tag, and that is Hoya AH027, also known as CV elephant. So that name might give you an indication of what it might look like. So it's big, it's veiny, it can be splashy, and I'm gonna throw a picture. And this is my kind of Hoya, like just giant leaves with cool veins. Get some splash in there, nice slab of leaf. That's what I want. Hoya CV elephant. I'm gonna like want to see more pictures of it before I bite the bullet on this, if I ever see one for sale. Or maybe it has to be purchased from Thailand, straight from AH Hoya, I don't know. If you know, let me know. But yeah, it's definitely on my radar, and it's in my notes now, on my wish list officially. The next one is one that I almost got, but okay, so here's the story. I imported some Hoyas in November. This is my garbage tray. I imported some Hoyas back in November, and a bunch came in. So it was like the Larissa, Hypolasia, and just like a few others. So on this list was Hoya Polyneura broge, and it was already confirmed by the supplier. I was super excited, and when it got here, it wasn't in the box. So that was really, really sad. I was excited to get one, and they're not like crazy expensive, and they're getting a little bit more available. So I will try to get one this year. I don't even have a regular Polyneura, but I've always wanted one. I just don't know why. I just never bit the bullet on one. Okay, I'm gonna be cutting this plant now so it can callus before I pot it up tonight. I think what I'm gonna cut it is I'm gonna take the top cutting with the top two leaves. So it's gonna be these two leaves here. And I'm gonna cut it right here and get, I don't know if you can see, get these aerial roots included. There's not a lot, but you know what? We're taking a chance here. So I've got my fresh shears. We're gonna cut, so the axillary bud for the node below it is right there. So I'm gonna cut above it, but I'm gonna leave enough stem to give me some room for rot insurance. So I'm gonna cut above the axillary bud right there. Let that callus, there's my cutting. I'll root that and grow that in a better place. Maybe I'll grow it in my exo somewhere where I can give it better light, so maybe it'll stop doing this like leaf curl back thing. Second cutting. So there's 3 leaves left. This internodal spacing is really tight. So there's a node, 3 nodes here, and then woody chunk that might not do anything, but this is where all the roots are. Okay, so what I definitely want to cut this section off and try to grow something out of this bottom one. Do I want to cut more than that? Do I want to do more? Okay, let's start with the big one. Start with the big one. Where's the axillary bud here? Where is it? Opposite to the leaf, probably. So I think this is it then, right here. So I'll cut it about, no, I'm gonna need the knife for this one. Shop with the shear. Okay, so this is my bottom cutting. couple of opportunities. So there's an auxiliary bud here, and then one also here, but one root system. So I think what I'll do is just grow it like this, nestled in moss. Like that. Just gotta decide, do I want to cut this one further? I don't have good aerial roots on this one, so maybe here's what I'm gonna do. I've decided. I'm gonna air layer this. So I'm gonna pot this up, and then I'm gonna air layer up here with kind of like a plastic cup type of situation. Fill it with moss, water it as if it was a plant. Once it grows a nice root system, I'm gonna cut the old chunk off, and then maybe grow a plant from here, and this one can continue growing. That's gonna be the plan. So no further cutting for this one. So this is my Rubrosynctum platinum. It keeps falling over. Oh dear. This keeps falling over in my tent because the cup is so small. So I definitely want to get it into something bigger. The moss is really, really tight in here now with so much root growth. So we're working on this one. Okay, so I was talking about, oh yes, the Polyneura brogade. So I've never had a Polyneura, but I've always wanted one. I just like, I don't know why I never got one, to be honest. Like maybe like I didn't like the sellers that were selling them to, I don't know. Not really sure why. I've always wanted one. I think they're pretty easy growers and pretty quick growers as far as Hoyas go. And the brogade is really, really stunning. I don't need it to grow that fast. I know it won't grow as fast as the regular Polyneura. To be honest, I would even take a Polyneura with like some splash. It doesn't need to be the very silver one. But if I could have the opportunity to import one again, I would. And then the last one on my list, this is one that I didn't realize I would want. I saw pictures of it. I'm not sure if I even saw one in person, but when I saw it, it was a fresh import, so it was looking pretty sad, and that's probably why I didn't think it was anything special. But Jing was like, no, you want this Hoya. So I looked at the tag again, and yes, I do want this Hoya. So that's Hoya archiboldiana outer variegated. So this one is kind of cool in the sense that the variegation shows up really late. Like it shows up after the leaf is hardened, and it can like look completely green. I do hear that they can be pretty unstable in variegation. What I didn't know is like how beautiful that variegation actually is. Like it's not like that clean white line. It's like it has these layers to it that looks like there's like different shades of green into the white. And then like the whole leaf has this like dusty cast over it, like this like grayish tint. It is absolutely stunning. So I should be showing you a picture of it right now. That is not what I saw when I saw a picture of it before. And now that I know what they do look like, that's on my wish list. I know Jing got one when we imported together last year, or like we imported on the same group order. But I don't know if hers ended up staying variegated. I'll have to like ask her. That is it for my wish list. So nothing too big, I guess. Actually, I don't really know about a lot of people's wish lists this year, so I don't know if that was a big one or not. Definitely more Hoyas. And the Hoyas are like not like the crazy rare ones. So out of everything, probably I would be like checking out the most Hoyas from my list, and then really, really, really want to get an Anthurium crossed off that list. Now we'll be moving on to the anti-wish list. So again, these are plants that like I do not want in my home. Like you could not pay me to have one. The first one on my list is Monstera adansonii variegated. So I have like a lot of feelings about this plant. Like I don't think I ever really wanted it. Is there a piece of glass in here? What is this? Where did that come from? Jeez. Yeah, I don't think I ever wanted this plant even like when they were new and exciting. And then as time went on, I think that this plant became, in my mind, like a representation of like a lot of things I hated about the plant community. I mean, hate is a strong word. A lot of things I didn't appreciate about the plant community, and that's like overhyping things, like the certain types of people that would only care about something if it was rare and needed to get every rare thing and then just like flex it and be like, oh, you guys, I'm so lucky to have this plant. And like, I don't like it for that reason. I'm glad that they're like borderline common now. No matter how cheap it is, I don't know if I'd ever want to add one to my collection. Like, yeah, it's just like, it just doesn't bring me good thoughts about plants. And like I said, I don't care about any other Monstera other than Deliciosa anyway. So yeah, pass on that one. The next one was a random one. I don't know why this popped in my head when I was making this list, but it was a plant that was like kind of popular slash hyped up in 2020. And then it kind of fizzled out. And I don't really see it passed around anymore. And I think they're really hard to grow as well. And that's the Cercestus mirabilis. So I just don't get it with this plant. It looks like a giant Syngonium. And honestly, I think that if I had like bit the bullet on one and just like bought one in a frenzy, I would have regretted it, because I think that the leaf texture would probably be really disappointing to me. Like when plants have the really thin texture, like it makes me, it's very underwhelming for me. Like I realized that how much I really needed plants to have nice texture and not feel flimsy. And like flimsy is a really big turn off for me for plants. That one was like kind of a random one. I don't know why I thought about it, but I would never own that plant. And the next two plants, kind of like I lumped them together because like it's kind of the same reason. I just don't get it. I've never thought they were pretty. One is definitely more hype than the other. So the two plants are variegated black cardinal and the strawberry shake. The variegation is kind of like dirty and mucky looking. I've like seen a couple of like juvenile ones being sold locally, and like, I don't know, like I don't know why anyone would want that plant. And then the strawberry shake, it's like, I've always found them kind of ugly, and I'm not a fan of the variegation. I don't think the leaf shape is like that pleasing. Definitely prefer the pink princess over the strawberry shake. And I don't know, I feel like this is an example of like name being like the driving force for the demand. Never wanted one, never will want one, don't want, nah, pass. Okay, so as I'm like going through this list, I'm like kind of like realizing this is probably saying a lot more about me than the plant. And I'm realizing that like I stop wanting a plant the more hyped it gets. I don't know what that means. Is that a bad thing? Is that a like pretentious thing? Who knows? But the next plant is kind of a good representation of this. So there was a time last year when this plant was just like, every time I open Facebook, every time I open Instagram, someone's talking about it in their stories, someone posting about it, and like every time it popped up in our nurseries, like the swarms of people would descend and just like clear the racks, and they would just like brag about it on Facebook. And like I was just like so tired of it. This was the variegated string of hearts. Thank God that the hype died down, but people are still talking about it, and I don't hate it as much now that I don't have to like see it all the time. But I hate strings of things. I'm not like into strings of like pearls, and the string of hearts is like the regular string of hearts. Like I don't think it's that nice, and the pink like little hearts, I would just, yeah, does not do anything for me. That said, I'm not as angry about it as I was last year or the year before, but I would never grow it in my collection. Okay, and then the next one is an entire genus. Syngoniums. I don't know if I've said this a lot, but I do not like Syngoniums. I've only ever owned 2, but like I've seen a whole bunch in person and I find them super underwhelming, and I'm sorry if this offends anyone. This is really just me. I know how popular they are. It's just not my taste. So the majority of what's being passed around is like Podophyllum varieties, right? So that leaf shape and especially the texture does not do anything for me whatsoever. Like I used to have Albo Podophyllum. I tried to love it, but over time I realized that I was so indifferent towards this plant. And I think a lot of it was because A, it didn't grow as quickly for me as it seemed to be growing for others, and B, it was just not a very satisfying plant in general for me. And the other plant, the other Syngonium I have is the Chia Pens, and actually I do much prefer that one. And again, it comes down to texture. Like the Chia Pens has a really like buttery, leathery looking leaf, not looking, in texture. It has more of like that round shape. It's like just green. Actually, the variegated Chia Pens is really beautiful. So that's one that I do like, but no, I'm not gonna buy any Syngoniums this year. When I look at the red spot tricolor, I'm like, it reminds me of a poinsettia. And you'd think I would love it because I love Christmas, but it makes it look like very tacky to me. I don't enjoy that look whatsoever. So yeah, no Syngoniums for me, no thank you. Okay, the next one is also a texture related. So this is one I've discovered that I don't like, and I'm just gonna avoid altogether now, and that is Philodendron verrucosum. And that proves that like you need to grow some plants to realize that like not just because it carries a lot of the characteristics that you love doesn't mean you're gonna like them. And for verrucosum, it's a heart-shaped leaf, it's velvety, can be really dark, it has cool venation, it has fuzzy petioles, all things that I really love, but the texture is not there for me. I find that the verrucosum leaves are a little bit flimsy, lacking structure, so they kind of like bend. They don't have that like nice stance to them, and they just feel like so soft and flimsy. Did I say flimsy already? I think I did, but yeah, after owning a few different varieties, I'm realizing that like it's just not a plant that I'll ever feel. I forget where I was talking about with Paraiso Verde, but my point is that it looks a lot like Jose in a lot of ways, and yet it doesn't. But I think that if I ever own that plant, based on ones that I've seen people grow, that growth pattern would just piss me off. Like how long the petioles are and how they like really go crazy searching for light sometimes. Don't want that plant. I think that, yeah, like there's just, why would you want that plant when you could have a Jose? So it will definitely be a plant I'll never add to my collection. And then last on my list is another whole ass genus. This is maybe a surprise to some people, Scindapsus. I've come to realize that Scindapsus, as beautiful as they are, as much as they make my loins burn sometimes, and like so many cool cultivars and varieties are coming out of Asia, they don't do well for me. I don't want to grow them up poles. They seem to have a very like specific light level that they want that for whatever reason I cannot provide, and eventually they all start to run. And when a plant runs, I take it very personally. There's no running in this house. I mean it. Like, you walk or you don't go at all. So whenever I walk through my shelf and I look for plants to sell, my Scindapsus are always on the chopping block. The problem is that because a lot of them are running, I don't want to sell an ugly plant. I don't know what it is. Like I want them to start off with a pretty pattern or pretty growth pattern and good foundation. I don't want to sell a plant that's been running. So that's why I still have all my Scindapsus. But I will say, like, none of them are bringing me much joy. The closest one to bring me joy is maybe my silver cloud, but then again, that one was like not running, but it was getting really leggy. So yeah, I plan to chop my Scindapsus collection down by a lot, and I will not be adding any more in 2022. So anyway, that is the end of my list. Please don't be offended if a plant that you love is on that list, but also let me know, like, if you've ever thought about an anti-wish list in that way, and like what would be on your list and for what reason. Don't get me wrong, like in no way am I trying to like sound preachy about like only bringing in the plants that spark joy, and like, you know, I love retail therapy as much as the next person. It's just like, this is where I've naturally found myself going after, you know, a long period of buying too many plants and selling a lot of plants and a lot of energy spent. I don't regret it, but I think that phase of my life is behind me now. And there's just like different parts of the hobby I want to expand my focus on. And that's like, I want to really nail the growth and the care of plants. I really want to up my knowledge game. My nutrient knowledge, and I want to experiment with different growing media and different ways of growing and like creating moss poles. That's the kind of thing that I kind of like, you know, use my brain on a little bit more, rather than just like amassing more plants. And so what I think I want to be doing this year is I want to get rid of the plants that spark no feelings in me and try to really do right by the plants that I do have, and then set my sights on the plants I really want in my wish list, which are going to cost an arm and a leg, but you know what, they're going to be with me forever. And that's also the nice thing about having like a tight-knit like planty friend group, is that like you end up just splitting things, and that really helps with the cost. You just know that like, okay, so I have this plant that Charmaine really wants, Charmaine has this plant that I really want, so like we know that eventually we're going to trade cuttings of it. So it kind of takes that pressure off of wanting and like coveting a plant. You're not like pining after it as much, because you're like, when your friend has a plant, it's pretty much like, it feels like it's part of the family anyway. So that's kind of like how I feel about the Ace of Spades. Like, in no way do I expect Charmaine to cut her plant, by the way. Just to be very clear, like I'm not like, oh, she's gonna give me a cutting of it. It's like the fact that she has it makes me feel like I don't have to have it anymore, because it's in the family, so I can see it when I want to. It feels different, you know? And I'm sure that she feels the same way about like me having when Lingeri, and I know that's like on her wish list, but I'm sure that like knowing that I have one makes it less of an anxious want. You're not feeling so much like, oh, I really want it. It's more like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have it? Oh, like, but Alice has it, so it's okay. Like, there's always gonna be one around. That was a long tangent that went really nowhere. I am curious to know what's on everyone's wish list right now too, because based on like my local group, it's kind of random. I think there's a lot of people like new to, like specifically my local group, like new to importing. It's really hard to get a gauge of what people are into these days, and I think what I'm seeing a lot on Instagram is very US based. I'm seeing a lot of Anthuriums, but I don't know about other plants. Like, what are people into these days? There are some like oddball plants that I'd be interested in, like at least seeing in person, like some Labesias. What else? So anyway, this plant is almost free of moss. I just have a little bit left to clean off. I got a big stem here to work with roots just coming off. Let's see. Well, actually, it's kind of everywhere on this plant, so it's looking pretty promising for a big old chop. But you know what? I'm not going to chop it just now because it was a little bit thirsty. I don't know if you can tell by this leaf. It's a little bit soft right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let it rehydrate overnight in water. And then tomorrow I will consider going for the chop. The internodes are pretty tight on this stem, but I think I can get at least one cut on it that would still leave a good amount of roots at the top here. So all of this would be left at the top, and then the stem would have this much root. So that's looking like the plan for now. So I'm gonna free the rest of this of moss and then stick it in water. And just to let you know like what's happening with the Columbia, I have it callousing with the roots just wrapped in wet paper towel. So the roots are in here, the cut side is exposed, and I just have it in a little pitcher to keep it off the floor. So I'll just kind of do this, but exposing the cut side, and the cut side on the top is exposed as well. So yeah, that's this week's video. Sorry if it was like really slow moving and boring and disjointed or anything. I'm a little bit delirious from lack of sleep, to be totally honest, and I'm not sure how this footage is going to turn out, but hopefully at least it was like relaxing to play in the background while you do something else. I don't know. Today was just not the week for me for filming. Anyways, I'm pretty much done with this plant here, so I think I'm gonna just go grab Huxley and we will say our goodbyes. I'm back with Huxley. Lately when I've been filming in this plant room, he's been sitting outside crying. And I don't know why he wants to be in here so bad. He never wants to be in here when I'm just like in here tending to my plants. How come you want to be in here? You're the baby. Anyways, if you made it this far, thank you so much for sitting through this with me. Possibly a very chatty, boring video. Let me know if you have any fun plants on your wish list that maybe I want to add to my wish list that maybe I've never heard of. Right, Hugs? And let me know if you have any fun plants on your anti-wish list that you want to share with the class. But yeah, that's it from me today. I hope you have an awesome Sunday and a great rest of the week, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!